Here's what I will say about this Buccaneers team, which is not going to the playoffs, and it's kind of how the season went, right? They won close, obviously in the beginning of the season, going 5-1, 6-2 with the 4 comebacks. They lost close. I think 11 one-score games that they played.
11 games within 5 points.
Within 5 points, right? So they lost close, and went through that stretch where they lost 7 of 8. And then they remained close. Like this team, Sam Weiss used to say this, and I always thought it was bull. But now I know what he means. And that was, we had a bad season, but it wasn't a bad year. And I say, well, what's the difference? Well, the record was bad, but we actually had a good year. Like, guys got along. The leadership was good. Nobody quit.
I'm sorry, is that the point of the season?
No, it's not. It's what
I think
losers,
it helps. I think it helps a good season.
It's what losers say, right? Like, because it's a loser's lament. But I know what he meant in terms of like this football team, and this is cliche too. Well, they didn't quit, boy. I'll tell you what, they didn't quit. Well, no, it's their job. I mean, if you quit, you're fired, right? Like that's a whole thing that kills me when people say, "Well, this coach doesn't motivate his players." Oh, I'm sorry. What part of getting to the National Football League do you need to be motivated for? Like, if I got to motivate you, I got to cut you. How'd you even get here if you weren't motivated? That aside, I know what he meant. But at the end of the day, as they say, look, they didn't win enough games, and it's reprehensible that they lost the games they did down the stretch that they had in control, up by 14 against Atlanta. With 19 penalties accepted against the Falcons. Obviously, the Miami Dolphins, who got just waxed by New England, was not a good football team, did not really play that well. They lost to them. The Atlanta Falcon game, going back to that, to have a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter with about 9 minutes to go, and wind up blowing that game when they have 19 accepted. You've accepted 19 penalties on them during the night. Inexcusable. You win any one of those, 8 out of 9 losses there, and you're in the playoffs. You're hosting what turned out to be, I guess, would have been, I think, the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah. Yep. You'd have been hosting the Rams, which would not have been a great draw for them, but whatever. But instead, of course, they're going home. And it was, there was some social media, Baker Mayfield watching forlornly at his house and his wife commenting about that. And, Rashad White tweeted out that, in essence, that, he was done for the Buccaneers. He's going to be a free agent next year.
Uno out. Uno out.
Uno out. Yeah, number 1 out. Uno out, because he knows it's going to be the Bucky and Sean Tucker show. Bucky and Tucker show. Bucky and Tuck. Buck and Tuck, I guess. So there will be changes. There's lots of free agents. We can get into that. We know who they're going to play next year in terms of opponents. The biggest takeaway, though, is that, this was a very, very disappointing season, and one that they've not had in quite a while, where they're in control and then fail to make the playoffs. The closest thing, the most recent example, is probably when they were 9-3 on John Gruden's final year, and they needed to win 1 game out of the final 4, including the last game at home against the Jamarcus Russell Raiders, and got
could have
beat.
said Jameis's last year too at 7-7.
Yeah, but those were 2 games. They
lose the last 2. But I mean, as far as.
Yeah, I mean, it was there for them. I never felt as confident, though, with Jameis, although I remember he went back-to-back games with over 460 yards passing, including at Detroit. And when they beat Detroit in Detroit late in the season to make themselves 7-7, I can remember writing a story that said he has a really good chance of getting a new deal and staying in Tampa, like, period, right? Like, these next 2 games, they were going to play the Tennessee Titans, who were wretched on offense. And then they were going to play, obviously, Atlanta Falcons, who weren't very good, at home, both games. And it was like, man, you got it right there. If you play anything like you have the last 4 or 5 weeks, you're going to make the playoffs. And if you do so, they're going to give you an extension, And then, the interceptions started up again And in both games, Tennessee, he started the game with a pick six. And then, of course, against Atlanta, Deion Jones, who was on the Bucs this year, ended up with a pick six in overtime and ended the game. So, the great legacy of Jameis was that his first pass ever thrown against Tennessee was a pick six in the NFL, and his last pass with the Bucs also a pick six. So it was like the tremendous symmetry of suck right there, kind of encapsulated his career in Tampa at least. But it was among the most disappointing because of the collapse, because of the nature of the fact that you were 5-1, 6-2, everybody's darling of a team. We've talked about this, with Mayfield and such, and for a multitude of reasons, injuries being one for sure. They kept losing to teams that they shouldn't lose to, including most of the ones. The reason they didn't make the playoffs was because they allowed Atlanta to get back in it and make it a three-way tie. And if Atlanta doesn't come back to them because they kept losing, head to head, if it was just Carolina and the Bucs with the same record, the Bucs are hosting a playoff game and not Carolina. But because it was a three-way tie, it became kind of the round robin effect, who had the best record against those other two teams. And Carolina was 3-1 and the Bucs were 2-2. And so Carolina will host those Rams, and it's first time in a long time for them, obviously, getting in the playoffs. But Dave Canales gets it done. Liam Cohen, by the way, just killing it in Jacksonville. And look, it's sometimes we wait for Black Monday. It's already kind of Black Sunday. The very team that the Bucs needed to lose to New Orleans to, the Atlanta Falcons, have already fired Raheem Morris and their GM Terry Fontenot. So, new broom sweeps clean up there in Atlanta after just 2 seasons. And they won 4 in a row to finish the year with the same record as the Bucs. So, all I know is that Adam Schefter did his deal. This is a must-watch TV on the day before Black Monday, where he goes down the list of guys who are in trouble, hot seat, safe for now, all of that. And Todd Bowles' names was definitely on the list, Now, he also had, sort of Raheem Morris as sort of an undecided, because he wasn't sure, because they had won a couple games and were playing, another team they could beat, and that would be 4 in a row. And so he wasn't sure. But with Todd Bowles, it was like, kind of, currently leaning safe for right now. The Glazers don't want to fire him. They owe him a couple of years of salary. We'll have to wait and see. So anytime you hear wait and see, I'm like, okay. So there's a lot of messaging going on out there in channels, and I kind of know where it's coming from. But when you start hearing like, I wouldn't, Todd Bowles, he could be fine. Like, it's not a lock that they fire him. And then there's also this sort of like qualifier in there that like, no one, it's the Glazers and they're not talking, and, they're probably going to wait a few days and assess things and not do anything fast and so on. It makes me wonder, just what those conversations are in that building. I think the signs are that they do want to keep Todd. Whether they end up keeping him might depend on who they think they can replace him with, if that makes sense. We talk about, and me and you discussed this before we came on, like the pool of candidates. It may not be that star-studded list, but then a lot of times it's not, right? A lot of times these coaches are, first-time head coaches. They might be disciples or friends of Sean McVay, that sort of thing. The secret is to identify those guys in advance. If you're Jason Light, have them on a list, present them, bring them in, and hire the best guy. But there is no Mike Vrabel out there this year, like there was. He didn't even get a job for a year.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. That's right. That's a good point. Now we might have most of those guys, including my sources, tell me that Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski is not going to have to worry about getting a job, I don't think.
No.
Damn good play caller. Went through a ton of quarterbacks. Obviously, the mess with Deshaun Watson, dysfunctional franchise. He will get a hall pass when it comes to his record and all of that, because He was with the, maybe the most messed up team in football in the Cleveland Browns. So he's a good name. There might be others like LaFleur with Green Bay. I think he has 1 year left on his contract. There's legit insiders saying that might be a discussion, that maybe the Rams will let him go, or maybe they prefer him to go. We don't know. So there's a lot of stuff flying around. You don't know what to believe, what's real, what's not. And I swear to you, obviously the vocal majority out there just wanting a scalp, for the season. They really want Todd Bowles fired. As we sit here right now at this podcast, I don't think they want to fire him, and I'm not sure they will. I think if they do, knowing the Glazers and their history, they're big game hunters. They like to move the needle. Now the one time they didn't do it was when they hired Dirk Cutter because they wanted continuity for Jameis Winston. They really thought that was the best way to save him, and the investment in him meant more than anything else. In this case, you got Baker Mayfield, right? And he's played well, not great this year, but he's played well. So, you need to get a guy that's going to assist him, whether it's a play calling, offensive. I mean, you always get what you don't have, right? If you got a defensive person, you probably try to get an offensive person, right? So I'm thinking that they'll be trying to do something if they do make a move that will both excite the fan base and also help their football team in terms of, taking this offense to another level. And I think at minimum, if Todd Bowles stays, I believe Josh Grizzard will get fired. I think Thomas McGahee, their special teams coach, will get fired. And I would expect maybe a few of his defensive coaches might resign because of age, much like, a couple of years ago, Clyde Christensen did. Well, he's still working. He wasn't looking to go into the retirement village. So in essence, I think, you could say he was fired. That may happen to a lot of guys. There's a lot of older people on this staff, like Kevin Ross and some of, Bowles' biggest confidants, that are almost 70 years old. One is 70 years old. Nick Rapone, their safeties coach, is 70 years old. So I could see at minimum changes on the defensive staff because they didn't get it done, and so, you can't just line it back up and say, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, what other coaches do you think they might make a move on? If Tomlin's available?
Tomlin's interesting. First of all, I don't think there's a world where Tomlin will just say, I'm leaving the Steelers, unless, in my mind, unless he wanted to do TV work or just get out of the game in general. Like if you're going to coach football, I think he believes that, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the best, organization that he could work for. And I think he truly believes that. So in my mind, if you wanted to go sit on a studio job, or broadcast where you can make a lot of money these days, that makes sense. I don't think that the Rooneys are going to say we've had enough. I think he's got one more year left. It might be by mutual agreement type thing. Harbaugh is interesting to me.
That was going to be the next name.
I think, the Ravens clearly have underachieved. I don't know how much of that is on the quarterback, quite frankly. Certainly he's been injured this year, and when he's not, he's been sort of a bit of a mystery in terms of how he plays in big games and stuff, and how much they use Derrick Henry or don't use Derrick Henry. But that's certainly something there with Harbaugh. After that, I heard your boy with the Bengals is okay. He's safe. Zach, right?
Who knows? I mean,
the word is that Joe Burrow really likes him, although I've heard him cut into him pretty good a few times.
Burrow, Chase, and Higgins have all been very supportive, but Chase after the game on Sunday wasn't as supportive. Do you believe in this offense? Or he's like, I believe in the plays that get me open and I score or whatever. Like,
I believe in
kind of changed his tune a little bit. And
yeah. That's
I think
interesting.
It's. I mean, I don't know how much of that's Zach Taylor's fault, to be honest.
No, I don't either.
I mean, the problem with the Bengals, and it's a bad run organization, is you get rid of him, even if you get rid of the GM, who are they going to hire that they're actually going to pay and bring in, and that's going to
do you trust them to get somebody good?
No, they don't. I mean, but that's a really poorly run organization and has been for decades. They've gotten lucky with number 1 overall draft picks Carson Palmer, Joe Burrow.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and Joe Burrow, I told you this many times. I still think he's the best of all the guys out there.
Yeah.
I do,
and they're wasting his career.
Totally wasting it. It's a damn shame.
But they're printing money, so they're fine. So
they're good. Yeah, no, that's the Brown family for you. Well aware. Used to be that the Culverhouses, and the Bidwells would only deal with each other because they thought the next guy was more dumb than they were and nobody else. They would get taken in a trade by somebody else, but they felt like they could get on top of each other. So consequently, there were a ton of trades between Arizona, Tampa Bay, and Cincinnati, which is interesting. You just don't know. I mean, usually there's between 5 and 7 head coaching vacancies, and you don't know, like, okay, Pete Carroll's he's going to be bounced, right?
There was talk, Brian Flores was going to be the head coach.
Right. That Brady's kind of taking more of an active role in hiring a guy.
It's going to be the Patriots way there.
Yeah.
So they got the number 1 overall pick, so they're probably going to take Mendoza.
Right.
New coach, new everything. I mean, it sounds like Brady's a lot more involved.
Yes. Which, wonder what New England coach he would like to have. McDaniel's already been there, so he can't come. Interesting. Somebody said, I was listening to a podcast on the way home. I was driving around today, and somebody said, you know what? Somebody should just go and offer a pile of money to Kirk Cignetti and just take him out of Indiana with his quarterback and say, let's do this. Let's challenge yourself at the highest level. Now, I don't know that Cignetti's not chasing money for sure. And what he's built already at Indiana is pretty damn impressive, but it makes sense. He is college, his college coach.
Well, there's talk that the Giants may go after Charlie Weiss Jr., who was Jackson Dart's OC at Ole Miss.
At Ole Miss, yeah. Interesting.
Either possibly as a head coach or just as an offensive coordinator, if nothing else. But
wow, that's interesting.
Now he's left Ole Miss for LSU, but he's still coaching Ole Miss in the playoff. But there's talk the Giants may go after him.
Yeah,
because they've got a coaching opening. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah. There's some like Tennessee, they have interim coaches right now that obviously will be changing staffs. And look, at minimum, you're going to see changes here in Tampa. I mean, I like the guy. I think he could grow into the job, but I don't think that Josh Grizzard's going to survive his first year as offensive coordinator. Some of the game plans seem disjointed. And look, I think you have to appreciate that for the longest time they were missing so many players, including the entire offensive line was reshuffled. But after a while, when you get your guys back and it's not any better, in fact, in some ways it's worse. Yeah. Then now you're out of excuses, right? Now it's not about the players, it's about the plays and the game plan and the decisions you're making in those critical situations. And look, what were the odds that the Bucs were going to hire after they got Dave Canales, who then became a head coach with Carolina. Then Liam Cohen comes in here and tops that and becomes a head coach in Jacksonville. Did you think you were going to go 3 for 3? I mean, it's just really tough. Plus you took an in-house guy. You did it for the right reasons, continuity. But again, you got the whole world to choose from. And you're telling us that the best guy for the job was just a couple doors down. That doesn't seem plausible necessarily. And again, I like Grizzard, and if he's back, that's great. But his game plans were not good. And, the evidence of that is just where they ranked towards the end of the year, in terms of scoring, everything. And so, you're looking at major changes as well as a couple on the defensive staff. But how much better does that make your football team? It's nothing you can sell. You can't sell assistant coaches, right? So you're basically, as an ownership group, saying, hey, trust us. we're going to make it better. Now, you could certainly help things with some money for free agency, stuff you didn't do before. But man, and I know I'm, when you get on social media, it's the vocal majority very often and the same kind of people, but they're coming for Todd Bowles, man. Like if they don't do something, I wonder, what season ticket renewals will be. I really do. Like these folks, they're done, a lot of them. And I understand why. You can't get up there and say we got to coach better and we got to play better. Okay, then let's, if you're a fan, you're like, okay, when? Like, let's go. Let's do that. Let's do that coaching part better, And then you get further into the season, and now it's 7 F-bombs at the podium. And then you get further in the season, and instead of coaching better, it's like, hell, we can't cover kicks. Let's just kick it through the end zone. Is that coaching better on special teams? You get another kick blocked, like all these things start happening, but it didn't happen for the Bucs. It didn't happen for their coaching staff. And I'm not saying the guys, players didn't lay down or, not listen or tune out the head coach. They just didn't respond. Like you got to have an urgency. You got to have guys that will hear you and respond. And so would they respond a year from now? I don't know. It's a really tough. I could make a great case for both keeping Todd or firing Todd. And I think you'd probably, when you got to the end of it, say, well, if you feel this way, you should probably get rid of him. And I don't think it's going to be the money they owe him in terms of like the 3 years necessarily. Although you can't ignore it. It is a factor.
Well, I think if you find the right guy, you go, this is the guy that's going to take us to the next level, back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then you're okay paying the money. But if you're just making a change to make a change,
right?
Get rid of this guy, but we like this guy, but who knows? Like,
right.
That's why I think Todd's safe, pending someone else opens up. And my guess is,
to your point, like Bruce Arians was available. He was perfect, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that was a guy that Jason knew was out, coming back, all that.
Right. But is LaFleur available? Is Stefanski available?
I don't know.
My guess is the Glazers have called around about other guys, maybe college guys. Was Lane Kiffin a possibility? My guess is they called around about a few.
Well, you call Jimmy Sexton, you're going to get about 25 clients.
Well,
so,
that too. But
but yeah.
No,
they've done their due diligence.
Did you call Nick Saban?
Nick Saban again. For years the Bucs would call Nick Saban almost every time there was an opening.
Well, did they call him this year already? And they may have.
Yeah.
Part of him being safe is they had a list of a few guys that they would consider, and they all said no.
They all said no. Yeah,
that's very possible.
Miss Terry would never allow that to happen. But yeah, no, and if you're a GM, you've got that list, somewhere stashed on your phone where you got to be prepared. Even if you're not going to fire a guy, you could get sick. You just don't know. So they do have to have some map, some way. And I would hazard to guess that what the process of them, unless it's clear cut, kind of get on the plane to Philadelphia, we know what we're going to do, Tony Dungy cut. I do think the Glazers like to have as much information as they can before they make that decision. They'll spend a lot of time with Jason Light. They really will, and they'll learn a lot. And then at some point, Jason's going to be asked, what do you think? And I don't know what his answer will be because I haven't talked to him about it. And I think he respects Todd. I think he thinks he does a good job, but he wants to win Super Bowls too, and he has bosses to please and all of that. You'd rather them look at the coach than look at your draft picks. So, there's going to be some discussion though over the next few days. And the Glazers can move slowly. Like it took them till January 19th to actually fire John Gruden as head coach. And so that was, almost 2 full weeks, going on 3 weeks following the regular season. So even though Todd Bowles is speaking tomorrow, or at least he's down to speak tomorrow at 3:30, players will come in, do their exit interviews. We'll get them as they're cleaning out their lockers around noon. Even though that will transpire, and Todd will stand up there and act and say, in fact, that, we all expect to be back. And, I haven't heard anything, but, that's my assumption. You could possibly still have a change many, many weeks later. Now, it's not ideal, and I'm not saying they want to do that, but I can't take on face value if he has a news conference, on Monday that means he's definitely back, unless he stands up there and tells us
Smith took a couple days.
Lovie Smith did too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had a meeting with him. They didn't like his plan.
Right, that's exactly right. And Jason Light called him and said, "Hey, it's not going your way." And he was like, "What the hell you mean it's not going my way? I'll be down to the office in 45 minutes." And he cleaned his stuff out that night pretty quickly. Dirk Cutter left from the final game he coached, went straight to the facility, got his stuff. When they make that decision and it's announced, it happens really fast. But you better have at least some candidates or a good conviction about what you're going to do before you cut a coach like that loose. And I'm not saying that, we got to worry about Todd Bowles getting hired as a head coach somewhere else. I mean, this could be it for him. He's like 61, 62 years old. Still could be a coordinator. Now, the other thing we don't know is when they get in those meetings and they say, hey, coach, really like you, would love for you to continue, but we really think you should hire a defensive coordinator. Is that going to be a bridge too far? Now, if I got 3 years guaranteed on a contract, it wouldn't be for me. But he does enjoy, that part of it. So all of that could factor in or none of it, we'll see. There are going to be changes, though, with a number of iconic players have played their last game in the Bucs uniform. First, let's remind you guys where to get that Christmas present that you screwed up on that you want to make up for. Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. You know where that is, where Santa has that set in the middle of the mall there when he's in season. Go upstairs, second floor. That's where you're going to find the Breitling Boutique. It's been International Plaza for going on 6 years now. What you're going to notice are these beautiful watches that they're known for, the chronomats, the Navatimers for men. They also have ladies' watches. These are sports watches. They're extremely durable and beautiful. You can choose from all different kind of wristbands as well. And as you approach Breitling Boutique, you're going to see on your left a display and the letters NFL. That's right, the National Football League. They have watches for each team, all 32 teams, while supplies last, and they are going fast. When I was by there the last time, I saw a Jacksonville Jaguars watch, saw one for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's got the team colors on the face of the watch. These things are unbelievable. You have to check them out. It is Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Please, when you go, let them know you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So there were some moments that after the game, Steve, that were pretty clear, to me at least, one for sure. But let's talk about the two iconic players that may have played their last games in a Bucs uniform. Starting with Lavonte David, who, it was pre-scheduled that he was going to address the media at a podium after the game. Now, the greatest thing I think that happened, one of the greatest things that happened on Saturday night was Lavonte David tying Derek Brooks for the most tackles in franchise history. Now, these tackles have been amended, and the source that they're using to try to uniform them a little bit have been agreed upon. And because it used to be like, Derek, when he was playing, he might have 10 tackles on the stat sheet, and then you come in the next day and he's had 7 more. You're like, wait a minute, they didn't play, did they? And it was Maxie Bond, his linebackers coach, that was looking at film that, said, you missed that assist here and they missed that assist there. So that got to be out of control a little bit. And they went back to using a specific reference and that they agreed upon as an organization. And so, in fact, man, you think about it, Lavonte David wound up tying Derek Brooks for the same number of tackles. Just incredible. The exact number. So also had a forced fumble or fumble recovery. I think might have some of the most fumble recoveries in NFL history. I think he's a Hall of Fame player. I don't think he'll go in right away. I think it'll take many, many tries. Did see Luke Kuechly calling games for the Carolina Panthers the other night. Kuechly's a finalist for the NFL Pro Football or for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he did not play very many seasons. He played about 7 or 8 seasons because of concussions. But if you look at what he did and you see, the longevity obviously has its value, and what Derek did, if Luke gets in, it's going to be, or not Derek. If Luke gets in, it's going to be very good for Lavonte because those two guys drafted the same time, successful. It's just that Lavonte was on a bad team that didn't win. He didn't make, but maybe one Pro Bowl, I think, maybe one All Pro. Was not an all-decade player. Played for 5 coaches in his first 8 years. Like all of that, kept him from getting those accolades. And yet, I think over the course of time, with the numbers he's built up now, I think he has a real good chance to get in eventually. And make no mistake, he has not announced his retirement. But when you walk in and the first thing you do is thank the media, which is also unnecessary and weird. But it tells you, among other things, and I heard from a lot of former teammates that he is in fact not going to play anymore. And
even this offseason, before the season, he's not one to spend a lot of time in the public eye and in the media and that. He was doing the media tour everywhere when he resigned.
Yes, he did. You're
From
right.
Kay Adams to ESPN to you name it, he was everywhere. And that's not
right.
Lavonte David like at all.
No. And he did him again coming off the field. He did, I think, every interview. And they followed him in the locker room, and he had a long, impassioned speech in there. And he came to our press conference and, like I said, reflected on his career and just how surreal it's been and what he's accomplished and friendships he's made and how much he loves football. So, yeah, if it wasn't goodbye, it certainly felt like it. It certainly felt like it. And then I'll just say this. I haven't talked to Mike Evans. I have talked to him at the beginning of the season and then a little bit the other day when he had those bobblehead things given out. If you watch Mike Evans come off the field the other night, he was wiping tears away from his eyes. Now, that could be sentimentality. That could be, wow, what a tough year I had. Season's over. I'm mad we didn't get to the playoffs. That was really my drug the last 4 or 5 years of, getting there after all those years of not getting there. So I don't want to get inside the guy's emotions. But he does not have a contract. And, he's been getting like $20.5 or so million, which is a lot of money, especially for a guy, that's now his age and finally missed some games due to injury. And you just wonder, are they going to be able to make an offer to him and he give them the hometown discount? Or, and this is my belief right now, if Mike Evans is going to play another year or two, I think if you really took a look at this Bucs team, he would come up with the conclusion that this is not a team that's just a player away from going to the Super Bowl. Like, I need to find me a team that's closer to getting to the Super Bowl. And there's one right down the street from where he grew up in Galveston called the Houston Texans. And they're red hot, Now, we'll see what happens in the postseason. But what if you could go home, play a year on a good football team, and make it one more run to a Super Bowl? Like, would that not be appealing? And I know they love Tampa, and I know they love the organization. And Jason Lights talked about how his kids would kill him if Mike wasn't on the football team. But I just think that for Evans, there's more football there. The injuries are probably going to continue, but not broken collarbones and the such. And I just don't get the feeling that he's done playing. I do get the feeling that Lavonte is, because I think he's a proud guy and he knows what the tape looks like, and he's not going to push it, and neither will the Bucs. So my guess is Lavonte done, and I would say Mike Evans probably done, but not with football. Maybe to another team.
That feels about right.
Yeah.
Because the other part of, re-signing Mike, if you're the Bucs, is the wide receiver position has the most salary cap percentage.
Yeah, huge investment. Yeah.
You've got Godwin still under contract. You've got Abuka and McMillan both on rookie deals.
Yep.
Like, you have a lot of needs.
Abuka's a first-round pick. You're going to play him.
You have a lot of needs on this team.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you have to stop spending somewhere to start filling those needs.
Right.
And it sure seems like an easy one not to. Not that you want to lose Mike. Not that he does so much. Probably in the locker room, the community, we know that too.
Oh yeah.
But at some point, you've got to make the decision of, we got a lot of holes on defense. Like,
Yep.
we got to figure that out.
Yep.
We've got to figure out, what our offensive line is going to look like going forward.
Yep.
And we had some issues, a lot of it injury related, but who are going to be those? Like, you have so many holes right now.
Mm-hmm.
That $20 million at receiver when you have the other three. And yes, this year is the perfect case for why you need 4 or more. But at some point you have to stop paying someone to fill another hole.
I would agree. I would totally agree. And I think, you're going to continue to feature Emeka Egbuka more. Chris Godwin has 2 more years left on his deal, I believe. Jalen McMillan, when healthy, is really good. And he's shown that just coming back from the fractured neck. So you've got like really good players that are younger. They're not first ballot Hall of Famers yet. But it will allow you to do some stuff. And I don't think the receiver position is one where, if you lose Mike, you go, oh boy, we're screwed now. No, you got good players. And Mike knows it. Mike said, it's the best receiver room I've ever been part of. I can't wait to see these guys' future. All of that. It just felt to me like when he was leaving the field and taking it all in, that he was thinking, I'm not going to be here. Now, I don't know if that means, retirement, but I think it probably, if I had to guess, it might mean that he takes a flyer and goes to another team. So we'll see. But
I think it'll be depending what teams want to take a flyer on him. I don't think he's going to go to, let's say, the Giants.
True.
Who are one of the worst teams in football, or the Jets,
true.
or, I think it depends on, I think, first of all, is it a contending team?
Yep.
Who the quarterback is.
Yep.
And probably location as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Texas, okay, so Houston. Sure.
That would be an attractive.
Kansas City, not that far. Sure.
Right. Those are the 2 teams he told me at the beginning of the season that he was really close to signing with.
Yeah.
That he really looked at both those, and he goes, but at the end, it was his wife that just said, honey, why don't we just stay here? Well, we're further down the road now. They're 2 years down the road. Mike doesn't have long to play. And so, maybe they take a flyer of seeing what it's like in another city. Look, everybody's like, well, he wouldn't do that because, he wants to be a Buck for life. Or that he is what he is right now. That's not going to change. It's just not going to change. It didn't change for Tom Brady, and he won a Super Bowl here. Didn't change for Emmitt Smith when he went to Arizona. Like, you can go on and on and on where there's all these examples of these guys, being with an organization for years and years and years. And there's, Michael Jordan, for God's sakes.
I don't think athletes think about, I want to play. They don't think of it like it's going to ruin my career if I don't. They want to play in one place because it's comfortable. If you're doing that, probably you're very successful.
Sure.
Your family, all that part. Like, nobody wants to move.
Right.
But they're not thinking, well, if I
it's not going to hurt their. It's just going to hurt my legacy.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Because most of the greats, we've talked about this before. Yeah. Most of the greats don't know when it's time to hang it up.
No, they don't. They really
don't. And I don't blame them either. Like,
they're built that way. First of all, they're built that way, right? Like they believe that even if they're cognizant, even if they're realistic that their skills are eroding a little bit, they still believe they can play at a very high level. I got to know Jerry Rice. It's a bizarre story. I won't get into it. I've said it before with his Hall of Fame speech and all that. But Jerry Rice is one of the most insecure players that ever lived. Like, he played his entire career out of fear, right? Like, he just was motivated. Like, I can't fail. He had such a high standard, but like, he drove himself crazy. As some of these guys, it's like a drug. They have to compete. There's nothing they can do outside of this career that they chose as young people. When they put the keys on the table, what are you gonna do? Go out and play golf?
Well, it's all they've done their life. It's all they've done their whole life. And
sure.
Not only is it just playing, but told, go here at this time, eat your meals at this time, go to sleep at this time. Everything about it. And then you add the competition part. When they walk away, they will never have that feeling again.
Nope.
Yes, you can, in ownership and other things in this, and on the
you
golf course and make some bets and whatever. Like, there's ways to be competitive, but never the same way as, it doesn't matter the sport, hockey or baseball or football or whatever. Like, you're never going to. So I don't blame athletes who
No, I'd hang on
aren't as
to
good
it
as
too.
aren't as good as they used to be. They think they're still as good as they used to be. They're not, but they're
Right.
still trying to make a go at it. Like, because they'll once you give it up, you don't get it back.
You can't put the keys out. Yeah, once the keys are down,
Like,
that's
and
it.
it's their life, their career, not ours. That's up to management to go, you know what, you're not worth $20 million a year anymore, Mike Evans. And I'm not saying he isn't, but if that's the case, like, it's time for us to move on.
Right.
If you want to go somewhere else, great. If you want to retire as a Buck, fantastic. You're going to go in the Ring of Honor. You're going to go in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Like, you'll always be a Buccaneer. Always.
Sure. But with the needs on this team, I don't see them looking at Mike and going, "Hey, we got 20.8 for you again." You know?
Well, no. I mean, if anything, it's going to be 8 to 10.
Right. And to you and me, that sounds like, and it is a god awful fortune. But for what they have to sacrifice and what they've done to get to a certain level, for 1 year, if you're the Houston Texans or another team, this contending team. Like the one thing you say about Lavonte Adams, I mean, he's had to go to a bunch of places, but he's never not gotten paid top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Evans, there would be a team that would say, this is what we need to win a Super Bowl, and it only takes one. So I got the sense that he could have been sentimental about anything, but it just felt to me like we didn't talk to Mike Evans about it being his last game, because we have talked to him. When I did a giveaway for the bobbleheads the other day, we went to Fifth Third Bank, and it came up as it always does. And when he's answered the question, he's been pretty consistent about, like, look, I don't know if I'm going to play another year, 2 years, 3 years, right? But I'm close, like it's getting really close to me, being through. And of course, he doesn't know, because he doesn't know what opportunities are there. Maybe he doesn't play for, 10 million. Maybe he plays for 15. Maybe he doesn't play for 15. He only plays for 18. Like, all that stuff kind of is individual. But I do think it felt to me like he was taking it in to the degree that, even in his own mind, this could be it. And of course, the Bucs have a role in this too, because he may think, look, they're not going to offer me another job here. Like, I could, they may not want me back. It's not just him.
Oh, yeah, it does take two to tango in these cases.
Right. So it's interesting, but man, what a season. Just disappointing for sure. One of the more disappointing seasons, I think, only because of the way it started, and just
6-2 to 8-9.
I mean, God, and
not as bad as the Colts.
Oh no, but the Colts had a reason, right?
Yeah,
and I know the Bucs were hurt too, but like,
you
didn't lose your starting quarterback, okay? Now, he didn't play well, but you didn't lose him. But yeah, that 4 comebacks, and Baker's the MVP, and Emeka Buka is the Rookie of the Year, and everybody, this team's going to win the Super Bowl. And you felt that way, and for good reason. And it was when they were the most injured, right? They didn't have any offensive linemen, and they didn't have some of their, Bucky Irving, and they didn't have Chris Godwin and such. And you saw them beat Seattle, which is the number 1 seed in the NFC. They beat Seattle. They beat San Francisco.
At Seattle,
yeah, in a shootout. Unbelievable game. Beat San Francisco. You beat Houston in Houston. No one's going in there right now. It's going to beat Houston, I don't believe. We'll see in the playoffs. But yeah, so they were legit, and then the wheels came off, and boy, it was really bad. They could not pull out of it, even against bad teams. Teams with losing records that they were losing to, like New Orleans, like Atlanta, and especially the Miami Dolphins, which I think was the worst loss I witnessed. Just the way they played that game, But here we are, and we'll be talking on this podcast about a lot of things. There will be coaching changes. We'll see if Josh Grizzard can survive this. I think at minimum, Thomas McGahee, their special teams coach, could be fired. You're going to have, several coaches probably on defense. Maybe some of the older guys might be asked to retire, perhaps Kevin Ross and some others. We just don't know. Don't know how it's going to shake out. But we do know, if you keep it on the Tampa Bay Times, TampaBay.com, you'll see a lot of updated stories there, as well as, of course, listen to this podcast and get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Check out the beautiful team watches, 32 NFL teams while supplies last. as well as the women's watches, and just great customer service. You're going to love it. Breitling Boutique, International Plaza. Let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay.
Don't forget the Lightning, 7 in a row now.
By the way, why am I signing off so quickly? Yeah, the Lightning 7 in a row. It's incredible.
They're atop the Eastern Conference again, first place.
Just crushing it. And we got the Winter Classic coming up pretty soon.
Well, the Winter Classic was in Miami on Friday. The Stadium Series, which is the Winter Classic, the New Year's or around the New Year's Day game. The Stadium Series will be in 27 days at Raymond James Stadium.
27, okay. And so I guess the ice didn't melt in Miami then, is what you're saying?
No, although that was a easier one to pull off for the NHL because that stadium has a dome on it, so they kept the dome closed and just opened it for the game or
there you go.
Potential. So Raymond James a little harder, obviously, because there's no dome over the stadium, but they will build this tent-like structure over the field and depending on how the weather is at the time. Now, if you had the weather around New Year's in Tampa for the Stadium Series, it'd be perfect.
Oh, yeah, it's cold as hell.
Yeah. But,
but then if you had it on Sunday, not so much because it rained the entire day.
That would have been bad. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But still could be a really cool thing. Really cool.
Yep. But, Darren Raddysh, his first career hat trick, only the third defenseman in Lightning history to have one. Victor Hedman has not done that, by the way. Most
improved player by far? Raddysh?
Yeah. I mean, J.J. Moser's up there, too. He's having a phenomenal season. Both of them. With the absence of Hedman and McDonough and Chernak for lengths of time, those two guys have really stepped up big time. And the analytics show it. And Moser, they signed to a long-term contract now. Raddysh is a free agent at the end of the year. It'll be interesting what the Lightning decide to do with him.
I mean, if you can find a way to sign him, I think that would be their options, right?
But, you've got Hedman and McDonough and Chernak and Moser and Crozier's a young guy now and Destu you just signed for another year and you start looking at the number of defensemen and it's just seeing if you can make it work.
Right.
But Raddysh has been phenomenal this year. Nikita Kucherov, don't look now, but as slow as he kind of started the season, he's fourth in the NHL in scoring.
Jeez.
He had a 5-point game the other day. Braden Point's heating up now.
They're playing great.
Yep, I mean, they won 7 in a row. Now Tuesday night, they get the best team in hockey in Colorado, who had won 10 in a row, but they lost Sunday at the Panthers. Only their third regulation loss this season in the first half. 41 games.
That's crazy. That'd be a great
3
game.
regulation losses in 41 games. That's insane.
Yeah. Wow.
But they come to town Tuesday night. John Cooper will be honored for coaching 1,000 games at that game.
Yeah, Tuesday would be a big night to go see the Lightning play.
But the Lightning, like I said, back atop the Eastern Conference right now. So,
yeah, they're killing it, man. And Coop with the 1,000 games, unbelievable. This team has that look, and like we've always say, you talk about just make the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do that and then some, and then it's just a matter of.
But they did it most of this year without Hedman, McDonough, Chernak so far. Now they're halfway through the season, exactly halfway through 41 games. Chernak's just back now. Not sure about McDonough. He went back in IR. Hedman's going to be out till about February, right around the Olympics. Hopefully, maybe the Stadium Series game he can play. But once they start getting all those guys back, you don't expect them to get worse. So it's been a really good season for the Lightning, despite a ton of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, everybody was hurt, and they got off to a slow start, and it was my fault. But went to a game they couldn't score. But no, it's been impressive because they've added a lot of new pieces, and these guys have all performed, and now, like you said, getting people back. But they've been on fire. I mean, we were looking at the schedule and trying to add up the wins. It was just like win. Yeah, they won there. Yeah, they won here. Yeah, on the road. Yeah, California. They're just on a roll, which is great. Great to see. So that Tuesday game, Stanley Cup final preview. What do you think?
That's the odds makers pick. If you look at the stats guy, the analytics guys that do stuff around the league, those are the top 2 teams to make the. They're right now tops in their conferences, but
a little rematch.
Yeah, rematch from 4 years ago.
That's right. That'd be awesome. Well, as I said, get on down to Breitling Boutique. We'll be here tomorrow. Todd Bowles is supposed to talk around 3:30, and or today, as you listen to this podcast, that'll be on Monday. Players available in the morning or around noon, I should say. They'll get the glad bags out, stuff their lockers, and and say their goodbyes, and we'll have a chance to talk to them on the way out. So check it out, Tampa Bay Times, tampabay.com. Thanks for listening, as always. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.